I think it might be easier in order to see them when we're having so many people on the screen at once is to just type in the chat.
Devin, come here.
Your chat is right at the bottom of the screen near the middle, and just type your name in, and then we can call them out and make sure we're keeping track of where we're at. Do you want to call them, Mike?
What's that? I couldn't hear you over that.
Do you want to keep track of the list?
Sure, I can do that.
And then I'm trying to keep an informal track of what some of the responses are, so we can have that for our board meeting next week. So let's just make sure Rebecca's got the recording going, and we're on. So I'd like to welcome you all to this open listening session from the public of Waunakee School District, being hosted by the Waunakee Community School District Board. We decided at our last meeting that we wanted to get as much input from the public as possible with the upcoming opening of school to find what most of you would like to see, what your concerns are, and what your issues might be. So this is an open listening session. We're not really going to be answering questions or trying to say what the school district's going to be doing. That will actually be brought up at our next board meeting, which is our regularly scheduled board meeting for the month of July, which will be next Monday or the Monday after. You might have to tell me, Mike. So what I'd like to do is open it up to people who want to make a comment about what they feel about COVID and how it will affect the school district as to opening, transportation, food, whatever the issue might be for you and your students and your children, or if you're just a taxpayer in the district, what you feel about the school district should be doing or trying to address, what issues you might have. All of the school board members have indicated that they will be on this listening session. And if anyone is interested, this will be recorded, is being recorded, and will be available on the school district website after the meeting. So you can always go back and see, or if you had to leave early, or if you want to suggest to your neighbors or other community district members if they want to be able to see it. So with that said, in order for you to be up on comment, as you can see, we have a lot of people on this already. What I'd like you to do is go into the Zoom group chat, which is down at the bottom of the screen. You can bring up the thing and it'll show it right next to the number of participants. And you can click on that and a chat and just type your name in. And then what we'll do is we'll call people in order that they put their name into the chat, and we'll unmute you so to make sure that you're able to speak. And then we'll just keep following that list. So if anyone has a comment or something they want the school district to look at as we go into talking about opening the school district at our next meeting, please put your name in. And it looks like the first one is Jamie and John Soper. So if you should be able to unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hi. Our concern, I guess, is as parents of a special needs student who virtual learning is not a good fit for, we have not heard any discussion of like what's going to be done to make sure that every student is still receiving an education, even if classes go online and students can't participate that way.
I guess I would add that people have varying levels of comfort and talk about online. For a large number of people in the community, I believe they want the 5-day in-person option, and for some people like our children with the special needs issues, it's the only realistic way of having things done. We've had significant backsliding in core functions for our daughter just from the isolation and the lack of services.
And actual physical decline from the lack of routine and from the stress of being outside of her sort of normal zone.
Oh, all right, thank you.
I would only ask, what grade are your children in?
We have one going into kindergarten, and the special needs student we're most concerned about on this issue is going into second.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So the second one I'm seeing is Ashley Falker. And please mute yourself if you aren't speaking. Ashley? And with 155 people, there's probably no way. I see in Ashley's iPad.
That's her. I'll unmute, Dave.
I got it. There we go. Ashley, go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. We accidentally put the name in because we just thought that was to participate, not if we had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, then we'll mute you back. No problem. Mute you back up.
Dave, the first one that came in to me came in privately from Tiffany Schultz. So let's go to her next.
Okay.
It just came straight to me.
Stephanie?
Or Tiffany.
Tiffany. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. My concern is with child care availability if the children do not go to school 5 days a week. I have a kindergartner and a third grader. And I checked with our child care provider, and they have availability for approximately a third of their after-school kids on days off of school. You know, that's concerning because there's only a 30% chance that we would get a spot there for any off days. And on top of it, it's looking at about $50 a day for a non-school day on top of what we're already paying. For 2 children, that's about $800 a month. And I just wanted to express that in some cases, not necessarily ours, but other families, that could be the difference between paying childcare or buying groceries for the month. And I was just wondering if the district is going to provide any resources for places that do have care available, and if they would consider subsidizing any of those extra costs that families are incurring if there's not 5-day-a-week school.
All right. Thank you very much. And that would move us on to Ellen Bolt.
Thank you. I had a quick question about teachers and staff members who work in neighboring school districts. I work in the Middleton Cross Plains area school district, and I know that our district has said that they are coordinating with other communities in terms of discussing what plans are. And I'm wondering if the Waunakee district is also looking to coordinate with area school districts. I have a lot of friends who are teachers in other school districts as well, and I'm wondering if that is something that's part of the deliberation.
Can I ask what you mean by coordinating? Coordinating exactly what?
Schedules, in terms of if you're looking to have similar types of days on and off, types of schedules. We were just given a survey that had a range of options that were possibilities. And I'm wondering if that's a consideration to think about neighboring school districts and coordinating the online or virtual schedules or hybrid schedules that may be offered.
Well, not trying to get into answering a lot of questions, but believe me, the superintendents among all the districts are talking every day.
Yep, I just wanted to bring that up as something worth noting.
All right.
Thank you.
Tiffany Schultz already did. So Chris Reed.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi. Yeah, I just had a couple of comments about my understanding is there may be some limitations on the ability to offer 5-day-a-week classroom instruction because of potential school overcrowding. I was wondering if the school board has considered doing things like reversing open enrollment, which I think has been a bit of a burden to the school system. I was also kind of wondering, how many open enrollees, whether those statistics were available. And also I was wondering if the school board had looked into optimizing school space better, including perhaps turning some of the gymnasiums into classrooms. I realize that would require a certain staffing level, but I think I'd only like to echo the Soper's comments that for my children who would be in 7th and 8th grade, the middle school, I think it's crucial to offer that 5-day classroom in-person instruction, because I think that, statistics have proven that kids only get about 70% of the level of instruction online that they do in classroom. So I would echo their comments that there is backsliding and the kids are really losing out. Now, if that requires all kids to wear a mask, I'm all for it, whatever it takes. But in my opinion, that's the only option. Also, it's my understanding, I just wanted to confirm if you can, public health information obviously is very important, and the school board should take that into account. But it's not the be all and end all, that each school district should be making its own decisions as to what is appropriate for the community. Is that correct?
I'm just going to say that as of right now, each school district does have a bit of latitude in how they set up their structure, but there are going to be some requirements. They're not all official yet, but that's what we'll be bringing up at our next school board meeting. Okay, well, great. Hopefully those ideas were helpful, but I think we really need to focus on the kids who reside in Waunakee and what their needs are. Well, thank you very much. And next is Casey Bogue. Hope I got that right. And there she is.
Thanks for doing this, you guys. Michael Brandt, I hope you're feeling okay. David, you too. I have a bunch of questions, but I'm going to try to limit this. So what are your contingency plans? And I'm going to say when, not if. A bunch of teachers and or a bunch of students get sick. How are they going to teach or learn? Are you going to continue with the pass-fail idea if kiddos get to a certain point in the semester? Contact tracing, are parents going to know if my kid was sitting next to a kiddo that turned out positive? And then I assume you're requiring masks for everyone. I'm wondering about vaccines. When the vaccine is out, are you going to require that? Those would be my questions. And thank you for all the hard work you're doing.
Well, thank you very much. And as I said, we're going to try to avoid answering questions like that because we don't have the full information yet, and the board will be meeting at our next regular meeting, making a decision on some of this once we have hopefully more information and obviously have everyone's input. But those are definitely questions that have been raised already and that we will be concentrating on and getting out to people once that decision's been made.
And I'll just add one more thing in response to, I think it was Christopher Reed about the public health recommendations. I think for Dane County, all school, I'm in higher ed at UW-Madison. I think that we have to abide by them. My last understanding was that each school district or school could be more restrictive. You know, we have information at the census tract level. So if Waunakee 112 is a hot spot, you know what I mean? I think that we can make more restrictive recommendations based on evidence and science, but not less restrictive, is my understanding. You guys are the experts, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
David, I think the one thing that we can at least answer to what Cassie was asking there is about pass-fail. I don't think we necessarily know, given what's going on this fall, what we'll be doing, but we did specifically vote for pass-fail to only be in effect during the previous semester. So were we to go to pass-fail again, there will be another vote required for that.
All right, thanks. And next is Jennifer Wharton. Jennifer? Maybe we lost Jennifer Wharton. Okay, so we'll go to Melissa Fisher.
Can you hear me okay? This is Melissa.
Yep, I hear you fine.
Okay. So I have elementary aged kids, and I think I'm hearing a lot of echoes from other people about concerns, but mine is definitely that the challenges of homeschooling those young ones while managing, for example, my husband works from home. I work in healthcare, so it's not even an option for me to be home if we do a hybrid approach. So I just think, you know, kind of thinking about the childcare demands, and if we aren't offering 5 days a week instruction, my concern is we're introducing so many more other people into our children's lives to make it work. So we have to ask grandparents who are at a higher risk to come help out, or we have to have aunts and uncles or cousins help us out because we physically cannot be in two places at once providing homeschooling or childcare and work. So I think when we think about the risk of spreading this, at least if they're going to school 5 days a week, they're within the same pool of kids. And I think, you know, the moment we open the door, there is a concern to me that, you know, again, we're exposing these kids to that many other people.
All right, thank you, Melissa. And that takes us to Megan Durst.
Hi, am I working? For some reason my video doesn't look like it's up. You can hear me?
I hear you fine.
Okay, great. So I included on the chat an article that I'm going to reference. Oh, here, maybe the video will go on. That I felt really strongly about schools closing back in March. I'm an internal medicine and pediatric doctor who practices in the area, and we took things really seriously, as I know most families did, and did the whole lockdown thing. We felt really strongly about school not being in session. And I think we've learned a lot in the last several months that can help us make a different decision for the fall. And so I filled out the survey and have read the Department of Public Instruction's recommendations. But one thing that came out this week was recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics recommending, and I missed the beginning of the call, so I'm not sure if other people may have mentioned this, but recommending that kids be in school 5 days a week, and particularly younger kids. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One, again, I did share the article if anybody's interested in reading it. But one, just like the other health impacts of kids being out of school and isolated, so increased risk of just psychological issues, as well as increased abuse and other stuff that happens when kids aren't not in school. And then just like the learning impacts, of course, and other things in this article that were mentioned. And I'm just hoping that this gets considered in the picture when you guys are making a decision about what the plan is for the fall, is that kids, particularly kids under the age of 10, do not appear to get easily infected and then are not considered to be spreaders of infection in a big capacity. And so it seems reasonable to me that maybe you do something different for the high school than you would for elementary ed, for example, because maybe 16 and 17-year-old kids wouldn't qualify in what I'm talking about. But for the younger kids, the risk of spreading an infection is low. What they saw in Colorado, for example, in all the daycare centers, and lots are open, they've had 4 cases of COVID, and those were adult transmission, not children's transmission. So I think if you combine that kind of information that we've learned, we didn't know that in March. So, it totally made sense to do what we did, or what you guys did. But now we have a lot more information. And so what we're seeing is these kids are not a big cause for spread. I really feel strongly that they should be in school. And again, we've been super cautious and scared and worried about our parents and everything, but I think it is reasonable to consider full-time school for our kids for all the reasons I said, plus, people talking about childcare and how disruptive it is to everybody's life. And then if you add precautions on top of that, people aren't wearing masks. These little kids aren't wearing masks in daycare centers. So then if you, on top of it, add masks in the school and some of those precautions, I think we're talking about really like a low risk with a huge benefit to families and kids to get back to school 5 days a week. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you very much. And yeah, we've already seen that article a lot, and I know a couple board members already have it, but we will be sharing those articles with all the board members before the meeting. So thank you. Next is Jamie. Oh, I'm going to butcher this last name. It's almost as bad as mine.
Okay, it's Geratas.
Geratas.
My question is for those of us that aren't comfortable sending our kids 5 days a week, or we haven't decided what we are going to do. Will there be penalties if the school reopens 5 days a week and we're not comfortable doing that, or if we would be more comfortable with a hybrid approach? I think I'm not concerned about the precautions the school is going to take, but being someone that lives in this community and seeing people out and about all the time at the stores, people aren't wearing masks. I think we can take a lot of precautions with our kids in the school environment, but if staff in the buildings are wearing masks, that's great, but the school setting isn't the only way that there can be exposure. And so just wondering what the flexibility is going to be in terms of if the school reopens 5 days a week and parents aren't necessarily comfortable with that, what considerations there can be. Thank you.
And that is definitely already been discussed as an issue that we will be talking about. Let's see, next would be Allison Opson. Allison, O-F-S-T-U-N, Opston.
Yeah.
Oh,
this
there
is
you are.
Allison Austin. I think Dr. Durst covered everything that I wanted to say. I agree with what she said. My kids will be in 3rd grade and 5th grade this fall, and I've also been reading all the news articles about the changing opinion to have the younger kids be in person because the benefit is just there's more benefit to having the in person than them doing all the online. For example, my son, who was in 2nd grade, he wouldn't even log in for the last 5 weeks of the virtual school. He just gave up on it. And from when I've talked to other friends with kids in the same age, they had similar issues. And one thing, if there has to be the virtual learning, like for example, he only had 1 hour, 1 day a week where they met like on a Google Meet in person. So like that's when I have friends that their kids were in private school, they would have like daily Zoom lessons for more in person, like if it had to be in the virtual format.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. Just in case some new people are coming on, in order to get in line to make a question, please go to the group chat and just type your name. And we're basically working through the list of the people who've put up. Also to remind you that our next school board meeting, the school board will be discussing the opening and how we're going to be handling it and be voting on it. So if you want to attend that meeting, that'd be a great way to get the answers to the questions you bring up today. And finally, there was a large survey done of the parents in the school district that got them back. And it was great to see that over 2,000 residents responded to that survey. So we got a pretty good number based on our students. And we'll be going over those survey results also at that board meeting. And that takes us to Caitlin Wetzel.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you.
Okay. I thank you, Dr. Durst, for everything you said. Again, you also kind of summarized what I was thinking. I'm sure, obviously, the school board has considered what the Wisconsin Board of Instruction released a couple weeks ago, but I do also hope that the school board considers the recommendations for elementary students starting back first and attending full days and potentially distributing across multiple sites. So using like middle schools to spread out the elementary school kids. I think obviously all kids would benefit more from in-person instruction, but in terms of the decreased infection rates with the younger kids and just the inability for them to be at home alone, for them to do self-directed learning, I think having some consideration for getting the elementary school kids back earlier, if that does mean having a little more virtual learning for the older kids in the interim, that would be great.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's see, now it takes us up to Jessica Schumacher.
Hello, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And I just want to echo and agree 100% with what Dr. Durst was saying, raising the issue with the American Academy of Pediatrics. I think I'm probably one of the only ones on here that has a high school student, and I'm just hoping that these older kids are not sort of left out of the discussion. I completely understand the issues with the younger kids. My concern was specifically about some of the math and science classes. I know a lot had to be cut out. And, these are kids that, are going to be trying to sit for ACTs and other sorts of things and go on to college. And we're becoming increasingly concerned about them being sort of able to sort of make that transition. And so if there's any opportunity, say for a choice for pass fail or some sort of, mix of in-person and virtual, I really think that would help with kids falling behind as this continues to move forward. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you very much. And that takes us to Jenny. I'm probably going to slaughter this one too. Sarbecker.
That was perfect. Thank you.
I got it right. Oh, good. I feel better.
All right. I just would like to speak on behalf of children with health conditions of all ages. I do think it's very important to have an option if we choose to keep my son home. Or maybe we could be more flexible with the plan, if he could go just a couple hours a day, or and he also has autism. So, and Waunakee has such an amazing special ed program that I feel like we have a lot of kids that this might impact. So just wondering if you guys will be laying out a plan for those kiddos who maybe won't even tolerate wearing a mask.
That's definitely been a topic of discussion already, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it again at our next meeting.
Thank you.
That takes us to Nestor Rodriguez. There had a question about a contingency plan with possible PPE.
You hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, okay. So I'm Nestor Rodriguez. I'm an emergency medicine medical director from a hospital locally. And I've been listening to what everyone said. I guess to me, and I agree, the American Academy of Pediatricians said, hey, kids are low risk in terms of spreading it. But I think we got to consider in terms of groups, one, the people that do have healthcare issues and what are the options they can get. And then the contingency plan is what PPP is, because even us in the emergency department, the fact that we say wear a mask, well, are you wearing it appropriately? Who's really going to wear it? I mean, if you look at younger kids, are they really going to wear a mask? Probably not, even though they're in the low risk group. But then what kind of requirements are we going to have for the older kids, and how are we going to implement that? And I think in terms of starting the school, I do agree that, that's the next step. But I think where the more thought process needs to be is what happens if legally then it says you can't be closed again, or what is the contingency plan if something breaks out, which kids are going to be pulled out, and when and how that's going to occur. And then lastly, for the high school, I understand that in terms of the younger kids, it does affect life for the parents and, as they return back to work. But I would also, I guess, have you guys think of the high school student, that's where my kids apply, that when you compare to private schools versus, public schools, what things are being done so that your kid's still competitive when it comes to college, because that's the ultimate, goal thereafter. In that, a 30-minute session that they had this month, I guess maybe people might disagree or not, but I didn't think it was enough. But how do you take that into account where now the pass-fail matters more than, in grade school? And then how do you take into account how that's going to affect them moving forward into their college and then their educational career? So I would just ask for those to consider those topics.
Thank you very much. Our next comment would be from Christopher Reed.
I think we already had Christopher, Dave. I think we might have skipped a couple too. There was Scott Thompson, I believe. Just put the name in, Sarah Kate Thompson. Scott, you there?
Hi. Yes, thank you. I did have, my husband and I both work at the VA hospital, and a couple of our colleagues have made a pretty concerning statement about their children were feeling starting to get depressed because, and these were middle school and high school students, where they were starting to get depressed and felt like they were not getting what they needed in, enough of a social environment, which is to be expected at this point. But I guess my question is there a plan in place to help reach out to these kids or the parents when it comes to the kids bringing up that they feel, that they're not getting what they need in a social environment? Is there a way that, we could help? Sorry about that. It's hard to see. So is there a way to get them in a place where they can either find a social activity with others in their age group or in their classes so that they feel some more inclusion?
Okay, we've got that question and we'll make sure that's brought up. Thank you.
I think Laura Hack's the next one underneath Scott.
Laura Hack.
Yes, hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, thank you so much. I guess a couple of questions, or I want to echo what Dr. Durst said first of all, but just some concerns that I have would be for those of us who are like single parents, the online learning who work, online learning would obviously not physically be possible. Number one, and I'm just wondering if the district has any potential, options for that, because if it's during a certain time and a person's working, they're not able to, they're not going to be able to teach their child online virtually. And then the other concern I have is the socio-emotional aspect. I guess going back to Dr. Durst's point and a few others who had mentioned it. So I'm just wondering, and also with regards to masks, the younger children, they'll probably be touching their face a lot more than if they weren't wearing masks. And so I'm just wondering, will it be mandated that children be wearing masks at a certain age, or will we be able to not have our child wear a mask if we choose to do so? So I guess a couple questions in there and a couple concerns, and thank you very much.
Well, those will definitely be addressed by the board at our next meeting, and we'll be trying to get it out to everybody as soon as possible. Again, just a reminder for those of you coming in late, if you want to ask a question, just go to the group chat, type in your name, and we're going through the list as people type their name in. And also, this is a listening session. We're taking your input. It'll also be discussed at our next board meeting, which is also available online on the school's YouTube channel. And this whole listening session is being taped and also will be available on the school district's website. And that should, see, D-Man put in H. I don't know if that meant you wanted to make a comment or, but I'm not seeing anything.
After that one, I think we have Dawn or Emily White.
Down to, is there a Dawn White or Emily?
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah. So my name is Emily White, and I'm currently a rising sophomore in high school. Adjusting to the freshman year is already hard enough, and how to balance between classes and sports. I did not do well my fall semester, but learned from that and had close to a 4.0 my second semester. The pass-fail system negatively affected my GPA, and if this continues, I will be stuck with my fall GPA for 2 years. My older sister went to Drake University and is also a rising sophomore, and they were given the option to pick pass-fail for certain classes, but still keep their GPA. I know UW-Madison had the same system, as well as DeForest High School.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Emily, come over here. Just come here. Come here.
So let's see here. Where are we at now, Mike?
Julie Larson.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I have 2 young elementary aged boys, and I was wondered if y'all had looked at any studies about transmission outdoors. I could see my kids possibly tolerating a mask during the indoor instruction, but maybe they would be able to take it off for outdoor play if it looks like that's not a big issue. I think it's going to be hard to keep the kids apart on the playground, but just something to think about. And I didn't know if maybe they could also utilize the outdoors for some of the instruction, you know, during the day if the weather was nice. Maybe the kids could spread out. Just something I had thought about.
Well, thank you very much. I think we're now on to Christy Line.
Hi. So I also have elementary age students, and it wasn't presented as an option in the survey, so I thought that I would just take in the opportunity to talk about if we have to do a hybrid approach and we are going off the DPI recommendations of a 4-day work week to allow for teachers to plan for the virtual classes or the virtual option. Presenting to do 2 days, Monday, Tuesday on, and the Wednesday as the off day would allow for deep cleaning twice a week versus just on the weekend. So studies show that, you know, the surface transmission isn't really necessarily there after a couple of days. So that would allow you to do deep cleaning on Wednesday and deep cleaning on Friday. So then you have 2 full days of cleanliness versus waiting a whole week and not doing anything until Friday. And then also just wanted to comment on the option about 1 week on, 1 week off. For households that have 2 working parents and there's not an option of a parent working from home, that is not a feasible option for, and to echo the childcare cost, a week worth of childcare is, you know, $300 a week. And if you have more than 1 child, that's just crippling to a family. So that's kind of where my opinion is.
Thank you very much. I think that gets us down to Jennifer Tasker.
Hello.
Hi.
Let's see if I can start video as well. Okay. I think it was Jessica mentioned you're not about the only one with high school students. I've got a middle school and high school student. So I understand that obviously we're all concerned most about our kids, which is human nature, and this idea that young kids need to be there. But I would agree with those who've said that middle school and high school kids are just as much in need of being in class and in-person situations. My son is 12. He'll be going into 7th grade, and being pulled out of school and not being able to see his friends has severely affected his mental health. So with regards to like spaces and this idea that's being passed around of like, let's use the middle school and high school for younger kids and things, I would hope that it looks like we've got a lot of community spaces, the village, the library, and the like that could be utilized if necessary. So I would personally encourage those spaces to be used before younger kids taking over the higher kids at like spaces, just to stick them online more. The other thing, and this could be an extremely unpopular idea, but it is a think outside the box idea. For the last 4 months, you know, the entire world's been told we've got unprecedented times and we need to take unprecedented measures. And I have absolutely nothing against the arts and electives, and I myself am a musician. But given these are unprecedented times, one possibly unprecedented idea is particularly for the older grades where, you know, with college prep and what the 4 main courses really are, the bread and butter of guts of what they need to do, looking at the option of, okay, we don't have 9 different classes. We have 4 core classes and 1 elective that would allow, you know, some sort of rotation of kids in and out of the building, rather than trying to, here's something for you for 2 minutes on this one day for art, and here's something for this, when that's just not what they're all interested in, and really focus on what are the core classes that our children need to be learning, to not have the learning gaps that in my experience, my kids have experienced over the last 3 to 4 months. And my last out of the box idea was, especially for choices for online school, there are so many established online schools. There is absolutely a need for kids who've got compromised health, live with compromised health relatives, to have that full online choice, no doubt about it. Is it a possibility for our school district to tap into these already well-established resources and not actually burden our teachers with having to create online resources? Just an idea. So there you go.
Thank you very much. That should take us to Alyssa Fight.
Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I've got this right. Okay, you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the couple of things I wanted to bring up have sort of been briefly mentioned. The masks obviously have been mentioned. I just wanted to say I have a 3.5-year-old and an almost 8-year-old, both who have, so my 8-year-old has some behavioral problems and some sensory stuff on top of that. And I was terrified of asking him to wear a mask, but he actually did a really good job. And then we were in a clinic and I took mine off when we were the 3 of us in a room with no one else, no outside the family. And he yelled at me for taking mine off. So if he can do it, I'm kind of like, it shouldn't, and he, he's only almost 8. My 3-year-old wears hers as well and had me create one for her baby. So I just, to people who think that kids can't wear masks successfully, I believed that until I had my own try it, and they're probably better at it than most adults. Because it's a rule, and if you tell them it's a rule and you tell them they're going to get sick if they might get sick if they don't do it, they do it. It was that simple. I have some concerns about like contact tracing and what that looks like in the school. So if either a child or a family member or a teacher or another staff member gets ill, how much information can legally be shared? Can we at least know if our child was in the building on a day? I guess it's just kind of like, I would like to know the details of what that looks like. I would rather not find out about it, from Facebook a couple weeks later. I'd rather hear it from the school district. I'd feel better about that, even if it is kind of like how we figured out about the bus early on. That was acceptable to me that we heard it, from the district instead of from Facebook. And then the last thing, I already forgot, hang on, quiet. Oh, the last thing I had was, I know I brought this up to Mike, but the thought of, so we had, but I work as a teacher in Mount Horeb, and we had those trailers set up when they were doing remodeling of the high school. I think it was the year before last, but it all blends together. And I was wondering if we could do something like that to provide extra space. I know then the problem is bodies to teach in those separate spaces. So I don't know what that looks like. That's part of our disaster too. But it was just another idea. If space is one of the puzzle pieces, if those are an option to budget in, I don't know.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Elsa.
Next is Adam Bjork.
Hello, thank you. Thanks for letting us talk, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to vote on all these decisions you're making. And I'm listening to everyone's concerns, and what I'm hearing is that no matter what the decision is that the district has, is it's going to put some people in tight spots. So I'm wondering why this is a one-size-fits-all decision. And if you have the ability to do online learning, why can't you just have whoever wants to bring their kids to school and is okay with in-class learning opt to do so, and those who are uncomfortable with it keep their kids at home and do online learning?
Okay, well, thank you very much. Let's see. Laura Hack, did you have a comment?
Yes, I was just chatting and just agreeing with what the gentleman, and I forgot the gentleman's name, what he was stating earlier. I think that is a fantastic idea, and I think just listening to everybody, it sounds like some people have children with, you know, special needs who the socio-emotional aspect would be, you know, more important and more detrimental actually if they weren't to go, versus those families who have children with health concerns who would feel more comfortable and most likely be safer to stay at home. So I think the gentleman, and again, I forgot his name, he brings up an excellent point. And I would second that. And that was it. I was just saying amen to that.
Well, thank you, Laura. So we are up to Joanna Bush.
Hello, thank you. Appreciate this opportunity to share my thoughts. And I guess what I wanted to mention or ask, so no matter what next year looks like for the kids, you know, whether it be online or if it is a little bit of split, will there be an opportunity to adjust students' 504 plans or IEPs over the summer? I mean, I assume that the people that we typically work with to make those plans probably aren't planning to work this summer. But just given the challenges that I know we faced in the end of the school year, I'm just wondering if you can help notify us of what the best route would be to address any 504 or IEP needs that result from this changing condition.
Thank you. That's a good question, and I'll make sure we look into that. So let's see, scrolling down. We are Melissa Vervoort.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I slaughtered that one.
That's okay, thank you. I do appreciate tackling this problem. It is no easy task. I do think one thing to keep in mind is that the students didn't know how to do any virtual learning, especially since Waunakee went directly from spring break into virtual learning. I don't think education is a one-size-fits-all ever. So if elementary does transition differently than middle and high school, I think that makes sense. But I know that teaching students how to be virtual students is definitely has to be part of the plan in case the inevitable happens, because we wouldn't want to go back without any of that planning happen. So I just want to hopefully create some reassurance for parents perhaps that felt like the spring was a complete disaster, that it would not be the same. I don't think teachers would prepare students the same, and so there would be something different going on. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Scrolling down some more. Heather Catterson.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have one question and one comment. My question is around if we did go to a hybrid model, are there other considerations besides the options that were listed in the survey? I found the options in the survey to be, at least in our situation, because we have a two working parent household, kind of concerning with regard to the consistency. And if I did have to try to find alternative care for the days that the kids would not be in school, you know, if you had every other week or the days rotated, that would be very difficult. So I found that I was curious if the 4 or 5 option, if you were going to do a hybrid, I guess that would be my preference, because then if I had to find care consistently for 1 day a week, that seems more feasible than having an option that does not have any consistency. And then my comment is around my kids currently attend one of the local daycares. They attend Inspire, and they went back to Inspire at the beginning of June. And I was wondering if the school board has ever considered leveraging the learnings of I know there's several other daycares in the area that are open to, and what they've learned as they have transitioned kids back, because obviously they have little kids who are not wearing masks, who touch each other, and you know how little kids are, they spread germs. So, but they've been very successful with their model And Inspire in particular, my kids go, we drop them off at the emergency door to their classroom, and they're 10 kids in a class, and they're very much just sequestered within that class. So within that class, they might not be wearing a mask, but it's just within those 10 kids. And then they bring, so they're also utilizing, because they have smaller classrooms, utilizing the art room, the gym as a classroom, so that they were able to spread it out. And it seems to be, a month in, it's working well. They have a great communication plan also in place that they have communicated to us, that if something happens, how they will notify us and what the plans would be if someone did contract COVID. So just putting that out there, that there's areas outside of, or there's information outside of DPI that might be helpful in helping the school district be able to, at least from elementary school age, figure out how to manage through the situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Heather. Someone put up, would there be a summary or notes sent out afterwards since they came in late? There was no plan to send out a summary or notes, but the whole video is being recorded and you can see it on the school district's website. There will also be a discussion of this and of the survey that was sent out at our next school board meeting. So you could see that, which is also going to be available on our website. You can watch it on our YouTube channel live on that Monday. And again, for those who came in late, if you have a question, just type your name in the chat line and we're just scrolling through, calling people in the order that they put their name in. Let's see, so we have moved down to Michelle Dama.
Yes, thank you. First, I'd just like to reiterate what other people have said and appreciate all the hard work that the school board and the administration is doing on these difficult subjects. I have 3 students in the Waunakee School District. I have elementary, intermediate, and middle school. So I have kind of a diverse perspective of how the spring online learning session went. I will just reiterate what some other people said and say that my experience was that it was more difficult, online learning was more difficult for my older students than it was my younger students. And in part, even though we have a household where both parents hold master's degrees, I'm less able to assist my older child in some of their core classes than I was obviously like my first grader, where it's much easier for parents to provide some at-home instruction for those younger students as opposed to those older students. So I would just, when factoring in how next year is going to look, I know that as part of the survey, there were some considerations, or I've heard that there were some considerations that space, that it might be easier for high school and middle school students to continue online learning. I would like to reiterate that I feel strongly that that's probably not an accurate nor fair statement, and that there's less time for some of these older kids to catch up. They're going to be with us in this district for less time than some of the younger students who may have more additional time to catch up on those core courses before needing to take college prep or technical school prep exams.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your comment. Next is Holly Larson.
You're on, Holly.
Okay, hi there. I first just wanted to start out. Okay, are we good?
Yep.
I wanted to start out just thanking you for having this listening session. As a parent with 3 kids at 3 different levels in the district, I also am just trying to gather as much information, and I just want the school board to know that I don't think all parents have their minds made up as to specifically what they might want. So these types of things are really important. My first comment would be regarding some type of in-person interaction between students and teachers. If for whatever reason a in-person or an online type of a situation would be needed, I would ask if it might be possible for there to be some type of in-person office hours or some type of opportunity for the kids that are super uncomfortable with being on video to ask teachers questions. Especially my middle school daughter, her teacher was fabulous, but my daughter has a lot of issues with anxiety and being on video and being super nervous about that. So it was really hard for her to get the kind of follow-up, even though her teacher was consistently following up with me almost on a daily basis, which I really appreciated. I just feel like something in person would be, would be something that I would appreciate as a parent. And then also regarding wearing masks, I am wondering if at the next meeting, is it basically understood that you're going to be presenting your plan, or will that happen after that meeting?
Well, the meeting will be discussing what the plan is. We're hoping to have a vote so parents have as much time as possible to prepare. But honestly, some of what we do is controlled by Department of Health and other entities that have a say over us.
Right.
I've noticed a lot of people saying, how come in the comments, how come daycare is different than the school district? Well, you kind of have to go back and ask the state Supreme Court because they treated us differently. So some of it is within our control and some isn't. And obviously we will be trying to communicate as soon as possible so people can get as much information and prepare their kids and themselves as soon as they can.
Okay. And
so
my
look forward to the next school board meeting.
Yes, me too. My reason for that was just for general information and preparation, like you said, but also I do have one child who I have spoken to her pediatrician already about wearing a mask and possibly getting some type of exemption for her if it doesn't work out for her. So I don't know if the school board is planning on preparing a form that would be kept online for something like that for a child that has a doctor's exemption. But I did want to make a comment about that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next person in the list is Angie F.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Thank you for your time. Just so like everyone knows, my name's Olivia. I'm actually Angie's daughter, and I'm currently going to be a senior in high school. And I just finished my junior year, and I just wanted to bring up the point that I understand what everybody means about elementary students going back to school and how it might be a little bit harder for them. But it was also very hard for us high schoolers because I'm a 17-year-old trying to teach myself trigonometry and AP biology, and some of the classes are just really hard to learn over the computer and try to teach yourself. But also I would just have a couple questions regarding if students aren't wearing masks, is there things that are going to be in place to kind of help keep social distancing when we're passing each other in the hallway from class to class, or how lunch would work with not being able to wear a mask while eating. Just I would say that those are some things that are kind of concerning and maybe should be brought up.
Well, thank you very much. And I believe our high school principal is on, so you're definitely knowing that those questions will get looked at. Thank you. Next is Colleen Moran, or Colleen?
Yes, Colleen Moran. Thank you. First, thank you so much for everything that you and the rest of the board are doing that allows us to chime in on these things and to get a bigger picture of everybody's situations. Obviously, this is a new disease and there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of risk. And I understand that it will most likely have to be a multifaceted approach. you know, to solve this issue. But, you know, our situation, we have 2 parents who are high risk individuals for COVID-19. So it's a little harder for us to kind of navigate, you know, the outside world. And we have to weigh the risk of sending our first grader back to school. And, you know, and then the social impact of not sending him back to school. So for our family, a hybrid model would be very important to us, if at all possible. And also, I think a good hybrid model might behoove our district, because as the numbers are already increasing, and in the country overall, there's actually a higher disease rate than even in the spring. I do wonder if at some point we're going to be forced back into an entire online model anyways. So perhaps, you know, starting off with a good online model that we could move to as an entire district, or some parents could choose as a hybrid, would be really wonderful, I think, for parents like us who have a bit more of a high risk. So yeah, and thank you so much. And I also wanted to echo the concern of a previous parent who had mentioned the importance of knowing if there was a child with COVID-19 that was in the vicinity of, you know, of our children. Honestly, I don't know how that would work, since obviously HIPAA compliance is a concern. But as a parent, I would feel like that would be very important to me. So perhaps finding a way to anonymously alert parents if their child had been exposed.
Well, thank you very much for your comment. Oh, Robbie Sandwich just typed in.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, thanks again for doing this. We appreciate it. 2 questions. The first, we haven't really talked about platforms if we do have to continue online learning in some format. I know everything kind of happened last minute this spring, so there may not have been as big a choice for online platforms, but I know we as parents had a hard time with Seesaw, for example. I don't know that it's necessarily the best or most user-friendly app out there, particularly for children. Very clunky. And again, I know we were kind of forced into it last minute, but are we looking as a school district at other platforms? Currently, our son's doing some enrichment programs with Schoology, and it's an outstanding platform. But talking with a lot of other parents, I know we weren't the only people with that criticism. And like I said, again, I know it was last minute, but it made it very difficult for us, and just added to the frustration for our little ones. We have all elementary age kids at this point. But wanted to bring that up as something I was hoping was being discussed at this point, or if teachers also had input as to what they were able to use in this upcoming year. The second question, I think, and I haven't been following along in the chat, so I apologize, but we haven't necessarily talked about or addressed symptoms and how people getting sick, or, you know, kids getting sick is going to be addressed at school, and what that's going to look like. So if kids are just exhibiting normal cold symptoms versus cold symptoms and a fever, I mean, as we are starting to learn more and more, everybody's presenting differently. And so what are those guidelines going to look like? How stringent is that going to be? Because as we know, just in general, people have a different tolerance for sending their kids to school sick. And so obviously this is going to have to be fairly uniform across the district. And those are the 2 concerns we had that hadn't been addressed yet.
Robbie, I didn't get, what grade were your kids in?
We have one elementary now and one going into intermediate school.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm not seeing anyone else in the list. Did I miss anybody, Mike?
There's a good number of questions that were just specifically typed out without people wanting to save them. So
right, I'll be saving the file, so I'll get that to all the boards so they can see the whole chat stream. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment? Please type your name in the chat and we'll recognize you.
I guess while we're waiting for that, Dave, I think the one thing that I'd like to add is that to be clear, the board is pretty much taking all options into consideration, and I think that's what administration has been doing already. The goal, I think, just to be clear, is that we want to provide a complete education for everyone, and that we're trying to provide that in as safe of an environment as possible. You know, we've had a lot of good questions about how we're looking at younger kids as opposed to older kids. And I mean, at least anecdotally, I can express that it seems to be that kids don't certainly, at least at the younger ages, like the age my kids are getting sick as easily as others. Both my kids were tested after I tested positive, and they both tested negative, and they hung out with me as much as they always normally would have. So that's, you know, it's something we are definitely looking at. We just want everyone to know, I think, that we really are taking all of these considerations in. Our administration is doing a ton of work in terms of looking at what all the other districts are doing, because some districts have already put out a plan. Some of them are putting out a very vague plan. And I think our goal is we want something as definitive as possible, as early as possible, so people have time to really get their families prepared for what's going to happen. And hopefully they can do that without having to be sick themselves and training their 6-year-old to wear this mask whenever they're around their dad or mom. So there, I guess that's all I would add if we haven't had any new questions added in.
Debbie Wilkinson wanted to make a comment. Debbie? May have lost her. Maybe she'll come back. Melissa Meehan. Oh, that's horrifying. Oh, there's Debbie Wilkinson. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a question because wait, when you were doing the section of the kids going into school, are you guys thinking of 2 days on, 1 day off, and then 2 days on for the students, or was it 1 week on, one?
Well, our survey was trying to get information from parents as to which one they liked or would work better, so we would try to address most people. Again, I really appreciate everyone who filled out those surveys, with over 2,000 of them coming back. And I got to say, this is the highest participation in my time on the school board for any listening session on any single topic. So I'm not sure if it's great to say have a pandemic to get civic people up, but it does seem to work. But we will be discussing the different options that you saw in the survey at our next school board meeting, and deciding which one, if any of them work best for us and best for the parents in the district.
I was just wondering because of the cleaning for the students. Right. Because of them going back to back without a cleaning in between, that beats the purpose of doing 10 students per classroom.
Well, we will be taking all the input we've gotten tonight and from that survey, and if you watch our next school board meeting, which is going to be available on our YouTube site, which you can find on our webpage, we will be discussing that and hopefully being able to make a decision so that you'll know as soon as possible.
Thank you.
There was another person asking to make a comment, Melissa.
Hi. So I joined late, so I'm sorry if this question's already been asked. My son is just going to be entering 4K, and so we recently received his placement. I'm just wondering, is 4K still happening, or how does that work? So he actually will be doing 4K, his places where he also goes to daycare. So does it still just occur at the same, like it would, or is it maybe a difference?
Again, as of right now, we haven't made every single decision. 4K, if you've received your placement, will be there, but we'll be discussing all that at our next school board meeting with people's input that we're receiving tonight and from the survey. So you should be getting an answer hopefully shortly. And I don't know why I can't remember the date of the next school board meeting, because it seems like I go to a lot of them. And our next school board meeting,
July 13th.
July 13th.
Thanks, Brian.
So that'll be at 7 p.m. And like I said, you can watch it by seeing it on our YouTube channel, which is, you can find the link on our website under the school board. And I'm not seeing any other requests for comments. Like I said, this whole thing is being taped. You'll be able to see it on our website. And so many of our board members are on right now and have been listening the whole time. I will be taking all the comments that people have typed into the chat, saving it into a file, and making sure all the board members will have access to that also. And unless I see another request for a comment, we'll see you all at the next school board meeting. And based on the success of this, hopefully we'll have more listening sessions this way on other topics and maybe to put this information out. So thank you very much tonight. And Rebecca, if you will please close the meeting, that would be great. And again, you can always email us if you have other questions or want to make a comment to the school district. Thank you.
Thursday.